as we talked about, AOC did reveal on this Instagram live that part of the trauma that she's talking about is her having survived sexual assault. So let's go to that section now.
Folks who tell us to move on, that it's not a big deal, that we should forget what's happened, or even telling us to apologize. These are the same tactics of abusers. And I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And I haven't told many people that in my life. But when we go through trauma compounds on each other. And so whether you had a negligent or a neglectful parent, or whether you had someone who was verbally abusive to you, whether you are a survivor of abuse, whether you experience any sort of trauma.
Yeah, look, I mean, you can't listen to it and not just feel so terrible. Well, I should say rational people with actual hearts can't listen to that and not be just devastated by it. Some people can work through that. And while I like to think that my political value system is based on positive values, positive emotions, a desire for progress, and want to better the lives of others, I don't generally found my political beliefs in resentment or vilification or rage and that sort of thing. The disdain I have for the people who watched that or didn't even care to watch it, just knew that she had said that and thought, I don't even care enough about this experience to view it. I'm just gonna judge it and I'm gonna attack it so that I can get a couple of Patreon followers or something like that. I cannot explain the disdain I have for those people and how personally sickening and soiling it feels to even be engaged in this gigantic shared project with people who have those motivations. Like, we occasionally have to be reminded that they're out there and that they're ostensibly doing something like us, but it is just so sickening. The people who have tried to make fortunes off of vilifying her, and not just AOC, but others as well, Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley and Ilhan Omar and a number of others, just the constant vilification for almost exclusively white male profit is disgusting. And days like that, I hate everything about this, knowing that she's revealing what she's experienced and it's devastating, and that she knows that it's not going away. It's not gonna get better. She's gonna be facing those threats and the harassment and the demonization tomorrow and next week and next year as much as she has up until this point. And it makes me so sick. It makes me feel so bad for her and for others and for other women like her that might be thinking about getting involved in politics, knowing that this is one of the totally needless additional costs that they're gonna bear. It just makes me sick for the present. It makes me sick for the future.
John, I'm with you. It's very upsetting. I am lucky, I guess. I've been trained a little bit. I used to be a children's social worker, and it isn't lost on me that AOC disclosed her sexual assault during this disclosure of what happened to her. Because when you are vulnerable and when your life is flashing before your eyes, all of these other things come back to you. And it's very upsetting to see sexual assault be discounted. We saw it with Brock Turner. We saw it with one of our own Supreme Court justices. Well, it wasn't that bad. Well, it was date rape. Well, it was this, molestation of children. When I was a social worker, we'd have kids, their own fathers molest them and be told, well, I didn't have sex with you, just fondled you. So this whole dismissive behavior is abusive. It is traumatic. And like I said, it isn't lost on me that she's correlating these things because it brings up the same feelings.
Yeah.
And the good news here is talking about it starts the healing process. The good news is calling it out for what it is starts to break it down. So no longer are families so quiet anymore when there's molestation by that uncle. Years ago in my family, there was molestation things. People, shh, don't call the cops, don't do this and that. That's changing now, and it's because of strength of people like AOC. And it's because of strength of children who come forward and disclose that they've been touched, they've been this or that. And I know we're talking about sexual abuse, and then we're talking about, the insurgents on the, raiding the Capitol. And it seems like they're two different things, but it really is a violation of trust, respect, honor, dignity. And when you have a history of that, not just her history as a sexual abuse survivor, but also her history as a woman of color in a system that continually discounts her experience. So this is something that, it was a very moving video for me to watch, just because she's an amazing storyteller, and people want to liken that to be her being dramatic. This is a time where we need good storytellers. We need someone to set the stage, because we were watching it in we couldn't even believe our eyes. Now that I know what was going on inside, and each member has their own story of what they experienced, because it was chaos. Your wife and I, Arlene and I, did a live on Instagram right the day after the insurrection on the 7th. And I said then, it's an inside job. It was obvious it was an inside job. It was obvious that they had planned to allow these people to get into the Capitol. Why? I used to be on all kinds of movie carpets, John, and they had better security there. I used to interview stars on the carpet. They have those little cattle grates, but they have like 3 different ways to get in, cops, you can't even get onto a red carpet, but you can walk onto the steps of Congress. You can't get on those Capitol steps, even on a regular day. When it's a full session, this was planned and it was allowed. So anybody who wants to go out there and talk about how she's being dramatic, I wanna know why the rest of them aren't being dramatic. Our Capitol was sieged. They tried to get in there, they were just a bunch of idiots. They didn't accomplish anything. Like you said, they're failures, they're losers.
Exactly.
But they still did some damage emotionally and physically. And we are not gonna sit back. We're not gonna let the Democrats sit back and pretend that didn't happen. We're not gonna let them use this for political power either. We're gonna call it for what it is. And thank God for AOC, thank God she's okay. I would have even been upset if Mike Pence got hurt. I would, obviously I don't, but it's because an attack on any of our elected leaders is attack on us. We have to honor that we have a system in place, no matter what side of the aisle you stand on. And it is so upsetting that we have people, Mike Pence's own party, they were gonna hang that man. Do not tell me for a second if they didn't run into AOC that they wouldn't have hurt her. Do not tell me for a second they wouldn't have tried to hurt her.
Nobody actually believes that. Some people will say it, they don't actually believe it. And they're the same people that, as you point out, are calling her dramatic. And AOC, I'm sure, has had to process that there is no correct way to do this. If you don't talk about it, they pretend it doesn't exist. If you wait too long to talk about, then how bad could it have been? If you talk about it coldly and just based on the facts, then it must not have been that bad. If you talk about it and make it real, well, then you're just being dramatic. There is no appropriate way to talk about something that they fundamentally don't care about and don't want to fix. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.